Welcome to Table Talk 3.5, where today we're discussing virtual versus in-person gaming, again, among a variety of other nonsense topics. Check out our YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit, or send us an email with any feedback or topic suggestions. Otherwise, enjoy Table Talk 3.5.
Oh, hey, so just to kick us off, I think we should be tagging everything with ASMR.
I don't know what I was thinking, not including that.
And I think all we need to do to make it ASMR is any kind of eating or drinking or unwrapping sounds or mouth sounds.
A lot.
Don't cut that out. Bring it to the front of the mix.
Well, we also, last night, we were discussing how maybe we could make it so that everything we do just has massive amounts of vocal fry.
Right.
Oh, yeah, dog.
Hey, guys. It's me, Jack.
I don't even like the way my waveforms
look
when I talk like that.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
So,
It looks like
listeners,
interference.
you may wonder, why were we talking about vocal fry? That's why I'm here, is to give you the context that Jack and Shepard are so reluctant to share. We were talking about people who professionally, or I assume they do this professionally, read audiobooks or read books to make audiobooks. Is it called narrating? I mean, technically, I know the cover of the book says written by so-and-so, narrated by so-and-so, but isn't narrator like a specific voice within the context of a story and not someone reading the book out loud?
I think it can be both.
Either way, professional narrators, anyone who listens to audiobooks knows it's crucial to listen to the sample before you buy, because some professional narrators are just have irritating voices or vocal tics, or I don't know. I mean, you hear them and you just realize, I don't want to commit to listening to this person for 16 hours. And friend of the podcast, I don't know what she wants to be called yet, so I'm not going to name her. Friend of the podcast, we were talking about like weird, over-the-top romance books, and she lent me this book that she had. I can't even remember what it's called now, but it's about a woman that gets...
Wasn't it called The Wife of the Dragon or something
No,
like that?
no. I mean, it's about a dragon man. The Dragon's Bride.
Okay.
Does dragons have any
pretty
interesting
close.
distinguishing features?
He does actually has two cocks.
Wow.
And within the realm of literotica, they're called cocks. You don't say penis.
I see.
Phalli.
So, anyway, obviously I read the book, and I'm not going to give it back either. But
Yeah, the pages are all
I
stuck
can't
together.
now. Yeah. And then the condition
right,
it's in, no way.
I'm keeping it for personal reasons, but it got kind of wet in the bathtub yesterday. So I looked up the audiobook because I've been wondering, these like ridiculous smut books, do they make audiobooks of them? Like, is there a 50 Shades of Grey audiobook, and what do they sound like? Are they over the top? Is it just some British dude reading the book to you, or is it...
That would be great. It's like the guy who did the Harry Potter.
Right,
audiobooks.
so I was curious about it, so I looked this up, and there's an audiobook, and the sample is... there are probably more than one, but the sample that I listened to was someone that it's a woman that sounds like she's in her 20s, and she has very pronounced vocal fry, and I'm not, I don't think I have a beautiful voice, but thank you. I don't, I've been hearing more people talk about vocal fry, and specifically, it seems like it's something that millennials and Zoomers get criticized for more than older people. I don't know if it has become popular or more prevalent. But anyway, that's the context. We were talking about people with vocal fry.
Nice.
Listeners, if you would like to pause the podcast now and discuss amongst yourselves, I encourage that.
No, that's good.
So make whatever point, and then now you can unpause, and I'll say, wow, That's really funny. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. What an interesting perspective. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Okay, Ombudsman report time. So, first I want to talk about just some general podcasting stuff. So, with the transition from Season 1, which was our Curse of Strahd campaign, to Season 2, which is Golden River Underground, we've been doing some things a little bit differently. So, for example, we have YouTube videos now as well as an Instagram feed. So, one thing that I think is interesting is looking at the difference between the YouTube channel views and podcast downloads, which are the main stats that I can see. So, the YouTube views are generally about the same. Like, I'm not getting radically different numbers for the YouTube views. However, a YouTube view can be as little as 30 seconds. So if you watch a video for 30 seconds and then click away and then come back, that's technically a separate view. Which, when your video is an hour and change, an hour and a half, whatever, long, a YouTube view is not like a good metric for whether people have actually engaged with your video. And this is confirmed by the analytic that YouTube gave me, is that our average watch time per view is like 18 minutes, which I think is actually really high for
that's
for
extremely
YouTube.
high, yeah.
But it's still obviously not great when that's still only a quarter or a fifth of your video. So if I've got 30 downloads on the podcast site versus 30 YouTube views, the odds are, not necessarily that all of those downloads are complete listens, but it's probably a little more engagement with that podcast download than it is with the YouTube view.
Well, actually, I guess I'm pretty encouraged by the 18 minutes because I imagine this isn't a bunch of people listening for 18 minutes. Something that high indicates to me that it's more likely that it's people who click in and out, and a lot of people who listen to like most or all of the session.
It's possible, but then what that means is it's 4 views per video to get a full listen.
Sure.
Right, because they clicked out and then they click back in, that's 2 views, and so yeah. It is interesting, and I know part of the average being so high is me, because I refuse to click out of one of our videos when I start watching it. I will not do it.
Is this why you asked us to just open up a bunch of tabs with a video in it and leave it playing on mute?
Yeah, and the more devices on different browsers, the better.
Well, what I do is I, watch the video and then I change my VPN settings so I'm in a different country, and then I'll go watch it again,
Yeah, that's how we get all our Sri Lankan views. Next thing is, I was talking to Caboose, this is like maybe last weekend, about, how we're doing things on different platforms now. And I was talking about Instagram, which I didn't have an Instagram until I made one for this podcast. And I was talking about how, it's not really any easier to make this stuff for Instagram than it is for YouTube, even though it's a 5-minute video as opposed to an hour and change, just because the way the effect works is it's the same amount of work, whether it's a second or a day. At least on my end, the computer does everything else. So I was kind of lamenting, like, man, no one's going to be able to find us on Instagram. Like, no one's going to see these videos. There's really... It's not super great for us propagating our stuff, and I just kind of felt stumped. And then Caboose was like, well, have you added the hashtags? And, like, have you given your post topics so that people can find it? And
got him.
What?
And my boomer brain just totally exploded. I just completely forgot. Yeah. Oh, what now? That's the pound sign. So I really appreciated Caboose helping me out with that, because it's obvious now. Of course, I was supposed to be doing that, and as of last session, 2.5 and 3, I started adding like Delta Green and TTRPG and stuff like that. And I might shop around and see if there's any other ones, but I just hadn't been doing that, and it's like the way people find stuff. So,
speaking of the hashtag pound thing, couple of years ago at work, we had interns, and we were trying to get on a conference call, and it's like, if you're the leader of this call, press pound. And the interns were like,
What is that?
"What's that? What's pound?" And the rest of us were like, "What do you mean? There's only like 2 things on this keypad that aren't numbers, and one of them's an asterisk, and the other one's not. So like obviously what's pound?" And they were like, "That's a hashtag." And we all died a little on the inside.
This is like the worst escape room puzzle.
Yeah, that's what stumps you.
I know what those other symbols are.
Yeah. That's great.
Maybe that's what we should do, is we should make escape rooms for Zoomers. Just based on basic historical knowledge.
I think the hardest escape room for a Zoomer would be just something that requires 13 seconds of attention.
Oh, that's true.
Oh. By the way, before we get too far away from the videos, I do want to mention that we've had an explosion of engagement. We had our first ever comment, I think, this week.
That's true.
No,
We've
no,
actually
2
had.
weeks ago.
Well, yeah. So that's. I'm gonna get to that on. Well, I'll just skip point 3, or I'll reorganize. So general attentiveness to our channel. I check our podcast views pretty frequently, or podcast listen stats. Just not that it does anything for me. I just want to know. But I realized that I wasn't attentive at all to the YouTube channel, such that I upload on Sunday, and then last week I didn't check the YouTube channel again. I didn't even open it until I started uploading the next one, and then I saw I had a notification for we had a comment. And I was like, I should probably pay attention to this as the guy who runs the channels and everything else. Maybe I should actually pay attention to who's posting what. But yeah, our first comment was feedback on Table Talk 1.5, saying, "Good listen, and it was interesting to hear about sort of the creative process that we use." And that we kind of talk about that stuff a lot. I think we're relatively open about that. But I find that creative process interesting, and I don't know what we do differently from other productions, but I'd be curious to hear.
I did also I was watching the session 3 last night just to make sure that I was ready for today. And I've always said that Shepard's finest podcasting quality is his lightning wit. And he really brought his A game.
Facts.
One of our listeners said, "Fun listen. It's the only comment on the video at the moment." And Shepard responded, "I agree."
Yeah, honestly, I was hovering on that for like 5 minutes, and I was like, I don't know how to respond to this. Like, this isn't like very specific feedback.
Should have just said no.
No,
I disagree.
you have poor taste.
Yeah. Last thing, just for media stuff, I went to go check on the subreddit, which of course had nothing on it. But I realized when I was playing around with the settings that I had it set to restricted, so people could view it but not post.
Jesus.
So, I'd been begging people during season 1. I was like, guys, come on, please.
It's just been an elaborate troll.
Hey, but here's another thing. That means that we could have discovered this through experimentation at any point if anyone else in the family here had decided to engage with the subreddit, and you
That's
didn't.
okay. Reddit's gonna die anyway.
Yeah, this is my fault, Shepard.
I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying it's not exclusively mine. So,
It is so.
yeah, well, I don't think it probably affects anything. But now the subreddit is open for business. So if you want to go there.
Reddit's going the way of the dodo soon, and we'll have to move to other things anyway.
Yeah.
So
I was
We're
going to say,
on.
yeah, I'm just in time.
Hit us up on Truth Social.
Yeah.
Right. Is Parler still around?
I don't know.
Probably.
Hit us up on Vote.
I've never
We're gonna go back to
heard
dig.
Oh, yeah.
We've been waiting for 12 years.
Oh, go on.
I mean, speaking of social media, I am trying to get a Delta Green dating app off the ground. For people who are really into tradecraft. So I'm thinking, it's something like,
You post your stat block, and someone's like, I'm also really good with heavy machinery.
no, not quite like that. I was thinking you would correspond through like dead drops.
Oh,
You know,
PGP you.
I'm still working
I
on
think
it.
I think that's got legs because
Yeah.
you really showcase your commitment to the bit.
Right. It's definitely more interesting.
No doubt.
You know, where like you walk to work one day and when you look up at that apartment building, there's an X in duct tape on the window, and you know that means to put your little handwritten note in the empty Coke can underneath the park bench.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see that it's red tape instead of gray tape, and that means, DTF.
Yeah, that means meet me in the black sedan in the parking garage.
For Table Talk. So I asked a question when we were talking about that, the Bayonetta 2 song, Moon River, or whatever.
Did you listen to the song, by the way?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's so good. You got to do it.
Frank Sinatra. Was Frank Sinatra alive for Breakfast at Tiffany's? I was like way off. I thought that Frank Sinatra died way earlier. And
No.
Breakfast at Tiffany's came out way after. Frank Sinatra died in 1998 and the film came out in 1961. So there was a little bit of overlap
I thought
there.
you were joking,
Oh,
so
no.
which is why I didn't comment on it.
No, I was just way off.
Yeah, I thought I should know, but then realized I didn't, so I just laughed.
Frank Sinatra, I think, was a contemporary of the Roman Empire.
Right, exactly. At the end, you guys started talking about pencils. I have cut a lot of pencil conversation from the podcast in
I
the
can't
past.
imagine why.
And every time it comes up, I'm like, I might just cut this whole thing. The pencil stuff I just find extremely dull.
Well, what if they're sharpened?
You can get a sharpener. They sell their own sharpeners.
Yeah.
You're welcome. for
Don't
that.
cut that. I will be looking for it, for that joke.
Here,
just
I'm
gonna
going
keep
to add
bringing it
so
up.
many pencil links just so that without context, it's impossible for the audience to understand it. So you better leave it
Boy,
in.
that's an unmanageable problem. I can't fix that.
One highlight in the delete key. They do have, so it is funny. My cohort at work, we now have like everybody has Palomino Blackwing pencils, and there's like those sharpeners. They're nice, but they're not cheap for a pencil sharpener because they're all metal, right? I think when I got it, it was like $30. I don't know if it's gone up by then. I think like 5 people have sharpeners. They're just everywhere now. Like you'll walk into any room you walk into that we use frequently will probably have at least one pencil sharpener in it. It's the best.
How do you
Is
like
that-
that,
is that
Shepard? We're
weird?
talking about pencil sharpeners now.
Didn't you say before that your organization uses pencils anyway?
Only
So why would it be
our
weird
little-
for?
Well, here's the thing. They've got, and this was a real nostalgia bomb for me, the electric pencil sharpeners that are like awful. We have one of those, and that's basically what people relied on.
Do you have the wall-mounted,
the
crank
crankers.
sharpeners?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Zoomers, I know you've never seen a pencil in your life, but back in the day,
Let me see if I can find a picture.
like screwed into the wall of your classroom, there would be a pencil sharpener that looked like a fishing reel. And you would
Yeah,
put-
it did a little bit.
Yeah, and a fishing reel, Zoomers, is fish or things that swim in the ocean, and back in ancient times, people would catch them to eat because Uber Eats hadn't been invented yet.
I don't know why we're targeting Zoomers so much.
They're, as far as I'm concerned, they're eldritch beings on the level of a DG campaign.
Okay. For the session, my first note is I had a bit of a music mismatch at the beginning where I played this sort of like driving country song at the beginning when we were going to visit the coroner and some other stuff.
Yeah, I noticed that and was confused by it.
So, I generally, the way I do music is I try to just pick a song for a scene and then just have it play the whole time and then transition. So, usually for these sessions, I'll have maybe 7 or 8 songs total, and I figure out a way to loop them. And I don't want to just reuse all the same music all the time. Not that I never reuse anything, but I try to get some new stuff in there every time. And sometimes I make a bad call, and I don't think that was a bad song. It was just the wrong pick for that scene, and so I think my track record's pretty good, but I do make wrong calls from time to time, and that was one of them.
I was a little thrown off. I was playing a game on one monitor, and I had the session up on the other. And near the end, there's a like when I'm just like saying, yeah, I'm going to stay in this house, and I'm kind of getting set up for it. There's vocalizations in the song. It's not verbal, or not. There's no words. It's just like wordless singing. But I wasn't expecting it, and I kept fiddling with the settings in my game. Like, I got to get rid of this so I can hear what's going on in the session. Funny. And it didn't change. It was so weird. But yeah, I think in order to avoid this, we should do exclusively like extremely twangy banjo.
Yeah, there you go. That way, there's no question about whether it's a mismatch at any time.
I was thinking we should, given that we're getting huge right now, we should just invest in our own team, like a TV show would have that makes music for us.
Yeah, that's smart.
I'm actually interested in having a live band that kind of improvises.
Yeah. That's great.
We can get Sinatra.
Yeah. We get a Sinatra AI to help us out.
But it'll be, I'm thinking it would be almost like what late night talk show hosts have, except it would be like Sumatran black. It would be some kind of like drone ambient, disturbing kind of stuff.
Which, speaking of, last time we didn't put out there what we were all listening to.
Oh, you're right.
I don't listen to anything usually.
Oh, they changed. Okay, so I wasn't a huge like groove music player on Windows 10 fan, but it like worked. It looks like it's gone now. Now it's just called VLC. Now it's just called Media Player.
Is that what you've been listening to stuff on? Groove Music Player?
It's just the default on Windows 10, and it has the file compatibility that I need. So there's no need for me to download anything else. You have Windows XP, of course you do. Yeah.
So he's been using Windows Media Player this whole time
for security reasons.
Last thing I had for the session was near the tail end of the episode. Simon and the sergeant were talking over the radio, and I made some comment of, oh man, if only we knew some police brevity codes. Like using the numerical codes to describe certain crimes.
Yeah, I got an 815 over here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to need a 22 Charlie.
Yeah.
Whatever, just like saying random things.
You gotta, yeah.
So I kind of looked it up, and first, it varies by state, so not all states, there isn't like one unified
so we can just we can make it up and no one will know.
Right. But it's also, I realized as soon as I started kind of looking at them that it was 100% pointless to try to learn them, because it would be distracting, because then if we were using those codes and not explaining it.
Yeah, because the listener would go like, what the fuck is an 815?
Right, yeah. What is a 22 Charlie like backup? What does that mean? So it's like mega pointless to try to learn those things. Yeah. And I was gonna list. Oh, here's some common ones, but like I said, they vary by state. So
yeah, and I imagine similar to submitting trouble tickets in your workplace, like to your IT people. If you're a cop, you're probably going to get whatever you want faster if you always just say like shots fired, officer down. You're going to want to lie to like say those really urgent things, but like shots fired, officer down. I need someone to like
bring an ice cream cone.
Bring an ice cream. I need someone to bring over some coffee, and then they'll like really rush it. So maybe just say that at the beginning of every transmission from now on, because it seems like a just an easy cheat code to get what you want fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. But that is all I have for the Ombudsman report. That's it.
Wow. Was it last time when we had a really long one?
Well, last time we, and kind of similar to this time, kept interrupting and going on tangents throughout it. So I don't think that was Shepard's fault necessarily.
Well, yeah, it wasn't that you guys were interrupting. It's just that normally I'm much more fervent about making sure that we get through the Ombudsman report before we talk about other stuff, and we just kept diverting and going ahead and engaging with that stuff a little more.
It wasn't a criticism. It was.
It was for me.
I do think it's ideal that we have conversations during table talk.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of the point.
But anyway, now that that's out of the way, I'd like to talk about pencils.
Sweet.
You know, it's funny. It's your lack of enthusiasm about pencils is.
I wish
guess-
it was infectious.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it's not infecting me or Jack, but I think I can safely claim to have the largest sharpened pencil collection in the world.
I would say that is probably accurate, having seen it.
And I have it in a. It's not Tupperware, but I have it in a plastic container with a handle on it, and I take it whenever I DM. It's part of my DM kit. You know, I have extra notebooks for people to use, and I have a bunch of dice and stuff like that. And one of the things I have is condoms, lube. I have a whip for naughty players, and the pencil thing. It's funny. I mean, it's very polarizing. Either people are very excited to see it, or they look at it and just make some kind of unfavorable judgment about me right away. Like, oh my god, this guy is. There's something wrong with him. Why did you have this many pencils?
A whole different level.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. There's not a lot of middle ground here. People are not. They don't see it and just say like, oh yeah, it's just, you know, one other box of stuff. It's either that dude's pretty weird or this is awesome.
I have a lot of sympathy for this guy's weird crowd.
Yeah, well.
Just understand
Sorry,
that
what
you
I meant to
are
say
in the
is-
minority at the moment.
I have a lot of sympathy for this weird
Yeah, please,
Nice pencils right now.
please don't drink any water while we record. Yeah, it's all of my female NPCs now. They're going to sound like this.
Hey guys.
They're gonna sound like one of the Mardikovs. Oh yeah, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
This is completely unrelated, but just as an update to the audience, because I know they've been on the edge of their seats the entire time. I did mention last table talk that I was getting a Spalted Dolphin dice tray and a bag.
Wow, what's Spalted Dolphin?
Oh my gosh, Spalted Dolphin is a purveyor of only the finest dice trays made with real wood and real leather.
Is it
And
true
also
that they're
bags.
veteran owned?
That is my understanding, yes.
I
Wow.
believe what we established before is that if you like veteran-owned businesses, then yes, and if you don't, then perhaps not.
One of the neat things about Spalted Dolphin is they agree with you politically.
Right, exactly.
I'll link it again. But one of the main selling points that was being discussed is that they sound fantastic when you're rolling them, and can confirm. I have 2 trays. They actually sound slightly different, so you can kind of pick your style. And my life is forever changed in a good way.
Wow.
Link in the description to Spalted Dolphin.
As silly as it sounds,
It actually is, like, it adds to the experience a lot when you
Yeah,
just have
it's-
something very satisfying to roll in.
it's, I mean, my thinking on dice trays has evolved over the past several years. Like, when I started playing D&D, I mostly played virtually, so I wasn't even rolling physical dice. And in a lot of virtual games, most, I think, you're not even allowed to, because either there's some kind of integration, and so it's just faster for you to roll in the virtual tabletop or you know, in whatever software you're using. But the other thing is, if you roll in the virtual tabletop, everyone can see it and you can't cheat. And so, you know, the mindset of like a VTT online D&D player is very different in terms of what you need to bring and that kind of stuff. And so when I started playing in person, I mean, one of the things that hits you right away is most tables are not big enough to play D&D on comfortably. Even with a pretty small group, you figure everybody's going to have some dice. They're going to have a notebook, maybe some miniatures. Some people like to use a tablet or a laptop. And then they're going to have snacks and drinks and stuff like that. And there's a map between you, and the dungeon master needs a bunch of space at the end of the table, and it gets crowded fast. And especially if you have a physical map with miniatures out, if you want to roll your dice in the middle of the table, it knocks shit over. So some of the people I've seen that are most anal about rolling in proper trays is wargamers, where it's not just that you have miniatures out, but you may not even be using something that's gridded, and so if you knock it over, it's not obvious where it was exactly, and it's a hobby where you're precisely measuring distances between things. So a lot of people just roll in the tops of boxes and stuff like that. But anyway, I quickly developed an appreciation for dice trays because they help you organize your dice, because a lot of them have like a little side pocket that lets you just keep your dice there, and then they have a separate pocket to roll in. But the other thing is they just don't go all over the place. But I would be curious to see what either of you guys think about that stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
even though you go ahead.
Nah, I always talk. You go ahead.
Okay, fine. Even though I also largely play remote, and that's been true for me the entire time I've been playing, I really like dice trays because, first of all, there's just something very satisfying about physical dice for me. I have metal dice from Die Hard Dice. I know that's a polarizing topic, but there's just a very satisfying weight to them. And while I appreciate the benefits of, we've talked before about, especially from a podcasting perspective, a lot of times public roles in a VTT are nice because everybody can react to it at the same time. In a DG setting, I think that's less important, and I like being able to just roll my dice and then say, yeah, I passed, or yeah, I failed. Also, kind of to Duncan's point, using local dice rolls instead of public dice rolls makes it so I can cheat more. I'm trying to speed run going insane in this campaign. I am 1 point away from my breaking point, and that just wouldn't be possible if I couldn't lie,
That's a great point.
That is a great point. Yeah, we yesterday actually we were playing a virtual Pathfinder game. Duncan and I were.
Oh yeah.
Along with Nerf and Caboose. So we were kind of playtesting Foundry and its Pathfinder module. So what was really interesting about that was the integration. It's not just rolling virtually. Duncan was saying earlier, or kind of talking about this. You can target another token and then make a roll against that token's AC. And then it'll tell you whether you hit or not. So little things like that help to, you take away that little 5-second interaction of, I rolled a 23. Does that hit? Yes, it hits. Okay. Well, you don't need to ask anymore. It just tells you on the screen whether you hit or not. So little things like that, I think, are a really good way to speed things up. I like that kind of stuff. I generally prefer to roll digitally. I think it's better. We've talked about this before on Table Talk. And it's also really nice when people roll digitally when you're rolling more than like 2 or 3 dice, because depending on who you're playing with, it might take them a very long time to add up the 8d6 for their 3rd level fireball.
Yeah.
And if it's just on the screen, I rolled 8d6, it's 31. Great.
For games where you're going to roll a lot, I think that makes sense. It's definitely more convenient and the integrations work. And so when I'm playing digitally...
Sure, the payoff definitely scales.
Yeah. But I think on the flip side, a good example is this game. Maybe a better example is like on Monday nights, I run a Dungeon Crawl Classics game, which is similar to D&D. There's not that much rolling. Like an individual player will roll maybe like a dozen times a session. And so usually there's some build up to them doing it. They're describing something they want to do, and We talk about it, and then ultimately they're going to roll some combination of dice, and so there's some build to it, and the combination of rolling a set of dice that they like in a tray that makes a very satisfying sound, and everyone like craning their necks to see what they rolled, that's part of the fun, is like the build up and then the gamble and the payoff. And I think that if you're not strictly going for speed, that is just one of the things that's fun about the hobby.
Well, all of that is the same when you're rolling digitally. It's just instead of a physical die, it's a digital die. Like, that buildup is still there no matter what.
I don't know if that's true, though. I think that if you're at the table watching somebody roll, instead of looking at the dice, you're looking at the person, and I think that changes the dynamic a lot, because you're waiting to see them react.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about, like, grabbing your dice and shaking them up, and everybody looking at each other, and then you rolling, and I think it's one of those things that if it's not happening constantly, that is interesting and exciting in a way that is not quite the same at a VTT. But to your earlier point, if you're making a lot of rolls, you're rolling a lot of dice, there are more modifiers to apply and stuff like that. So generally, like, there's a lot of counting and tabulating and stuff like that. The VTT thing makes it considerably more efficient.
Yeah, but when you're on a VTT, instead of shaking the dice, you just have to shake your mouse, and it's not the same.
Yeah, but that's why I need a Spelted Dolphin to develop like a some kind of like augmented reality, like dice cup thing.
Yeah.
Where you can it like links to your computer somehow wirelessly, and you shake it up, and it rolls the dice in the virtual tabletop.
That sounds pretty easy.
Well, actually, some of that isn't super hard. So there's this cool little device that I don't know if they still make them anymore, but it was called the Leap Motion Sensor. And what it would do is... I remember you
talking about Leap Motion. I remember it saved you on one of your projects.
Well, yeah, so it was something I used in college for my capstone project. But it was basically a IR camera, and it would look at your hands, and it would then create virtual hands in, like a Unity space or an Unreal space or whatever, any engine that it had an API for. And it was actually pretty neat, because they released an update while we were working on it that made it go from barely functional to it was like super, super good and worked really well. It was kind of cool, and so you could use something like that to much more easily, like, physically roll a virtual die, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And that could actually be something that's quite funny. I like I said, I don't know if they still make it. It's actually something that I thought was really neat, but it didn't have the same kind of, market appeal, I think, as other things in the same space, as virtual reality controllers and stuff like that, even though I thought it was actually, in many ways, much more effective than those things.
Well, maybe one day we'll move to Tabletop Simulator.
I did think it would be funny to try that.
I don't understand how that's legal. I know we've talked about it, but, like, how is that still around? Because
why would that be illegal?
I think a lot of the content on it is, like, people basically producing games without license that are just carbon copies of actual games that are actually existing.
Well, let's clarify for anyone who doesn't understand. As I understand it, Tabletop Simulator is, unlike a virtual tabletop, where you just throw down a map on a grid and you can move tokens around two-dimensionally and stuff like that. Tabletop Simulator is a three-dimensional table, like a dining room table in some in some setting, and what Jack is describing is you take what a lot of people do, I think, is they will like take a picture or otherwise recreate like a board game that really exists, and the pieces, and you and your friends can manipulate them in this 3D space. But yeah, that seems like an IP problem.
Well, as long as they're not selling it in game, if people are making community content for this game, then I don't think that people can shake a stick at that legally. Not at the people who make the game. They could potentially come after the people in the community who are making that content, but people don't really do that.
Sure.
That doesn't make it legal, but I don't think that Virtual Tabletop, or whoever's behind it, I don't think they're doing anything illegal.
No, I don't think they are either. But I wonder where the boundaries are there. No, not that we obey laws on this podcast. We don't.
I don't think we even recognize them most of the time.
We're anarcho-socialists.
Right. Well, and we've discussed buying a ship that we could sail into international waters.
Oh, are
and,
we gonna be seasteaders?
we're gonna be we've talked about this before. What is that? The name of Sealand or whatever? Like that micronation.
Yeah.
That's the. It's like the old oil rig or something.
Outer Heaven, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking for a situation like that where we can.
It's the Principality of Sealand.
Yeah,
I thought that was an amusement park.
that's SeaWorld.
Oh, right, yeah.
But
So
anyway,
I don't know if I was ever part of this conversation. I'll have to look into that.
if any listeners have a barge or a large ship or an oil rig that they're willing to donate or sell at a very reasonable price, let us know. You can now
Yeah, if we
post on
can
the subreddit, so
Yeah, it's true. You can now comment on YouTube as well. We need to get a ship like the one at the end of Resident Evil 4. Great film, by the way.
can you describe it for those of us who haven't seen it? Not the film, the ship.
So it's like a big cargo ship where they fight a bunch of Resident Evil zombies on top. But then inside, it's like this very sterile white lab that they obviously, it doesn't belong on a ship at all.
Okay.
It's a very strange film, I'm not going to lie.
Hey, remember Man of Medan that we never actually got to finish?
Well, we tried to play
Remember
it.
how that game kept locking up and we couldn't finish it?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't even let us open the scene.
No, I'm open to a spaceship as well. But we will need to get magnetic dice trays in that case.
I was going to say,
which
in
may be
space,
expensive.
no one can hear your dice clacking against your dice tray.
Yeah, but I mean, we could, even if we were going to play outside, like while we were spacewalking, we could just play those sounds over the radio every time you roll.
Oh, that's true.
So we can get around this.
Could your extremely inferior bone structure even handle being outside of gravity for that long? Would you never be able to come back as soon as you went out?
What you're not thinking about is if I go to space, I might get like an inch or two taller.
Oh, that's true.
So
You're already pushing 7 feet, I thought.
potentially worth it. Yeah, that's true. I am a statuesque individual.
Stoner.
Yeah,
For sure.
but yeah. Anyway, spaceship, oil rig, whatever. We're just looking for a change of venue that will allow us to escape. Taxation for one thing.
I hear the laws in Romania are pretty lax.
Yeah, well,
I hear several internet.
some of my
celebrities
role
have been there
models
and had a lot of
have gotten in
success,
trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
That whole situation has been. I'd never heard of that guy until Andrew Tate we're talking about here. Until all of that happened, he seems really weird and stupid, and I don't understand why he has a following.
I don't understand his accent. It confuses me.
Oh, I've never seen him in a video, but
Well, you'd have to hear him for the accent.
that's true. That's true. I would, but
Got him.
Yeah.
So I have never... I've seen like memes about the guy, and that's the entire extent of my experience with him. My impression is that he's one of those guys that has cultivated an audience of like the...
it's like sad single men. He's like
especially
he's
like
the new incel guy.
Yeah, but I think it's specifically for like very like teenage guys. I think I think that's like his target demo, kind of capitalizing on like modern male rage kind of thing.
Alpha males.
That who posted that video? Was that you, Duncan?
Yeah.
Who posted that?
Oh, the kid in the classroom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to convince the teacher that like he's in
like,
charge now because he's the
I
alpha.
am the alpha now.
It was like a nightmare.
I think I've seen the video you're talking about. I don't remember it being posted, but
We'll have to put the link in the description. But
yeah, I'll find it here.
in summary, if I remember this correctly, it's this pretty nerdy, like teenage kid. I think he's being told to do something by his teacher or something along those lines, and he's refusing to do it, and he is very nasally saying I am the alpha male. And he's just refusing to do anything, and the teacher's explaining to him like that's not how this works. Sit down. It's pretty funny.
I can't find where he posted it.
I found it. It was. I'll put it in the links.
Okay. Yeah, we got a lot of channels here in the Discord. It can be tough to find things sometimes.
Yeah, we need to do a little bit of pruning.
Yeah, that has happened before, and then that always kind of
Well,
balloons back out.
I'll tell you. Well, that's how pruning works. But what is tricky about this is when I put it out to the server that, hey, the channel structure has kind of exploded out of control and it's time to trim it up. What are you guys willing to get rid of? Here's what I'm proposing we get rid of. A bunch of people will go like, no, there's stuff I like in there. And then I'll go, okay, then I guess we'll leave it. And then nothing will happen.
I don't mind the number of channels we've got. I think we're probably fine where we're at.
I still am upset that we don't have a Tulpa posting channel.
You never used it when we had it, so that's up to you.
No. If you... I'll make
bring
one
that
for
one
you,
back.
but you have to take care of it.
You have to feed it.
You have to clean
lie.
up after it. You have to feed it.
I'm not going to take care of it, but Cockspungler will.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Tulpas. Yeah, you gotta link that one too.
Yeah.
What a...
Tulpamancy.
No. It's funny. It's funny that this comes up though. Not the Tulpa thing, but the channels, because there have been a couple of instances in the past week or so where I've remembered that someone posted something and I've been looking for it because I wanted to look at it again or I wanted to show someone else, and I'm like, man, I have no idea what channel this could have gone in. This could have been in like 6 different channels.
Yeah, and the Discord search function is not great.
No, it's not terrible, but I think it's a server-wide search, and it's if you don't nail the keyword, you're not getting it.
Yeah, I was trying to find something yesterday. We were talking about something yesterday. I was trying to find it, and I tried every keyword I could think of.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, this is it can be a challenge sometimes. I also think what will often happen is something will start on like the right track, or like it makes sense to be in that channel, and then the conversation will continue in that channel far beyond the point where it still belongs there.
Yes, that is
so
something I could probably improve at is, so simply put, the way our server is structured is I have a lobby where we have a couple of general threads, there's just a general text thread and a scheduling thread, and then we have other, I can't remember what they're called, categories, I think, that have channels in them that are topical. So we have one for Dungeons and Dragons, we have one for Delta Green, we have one for video games, and it's a lot of times something will come up in general, and instead of migrating over to like the appropriate category, it will just stay there for days or weeks.
Right. So for an example, when Nerf was scheduling his Pathfinder games, he put the schedule request in scheduling, where we have a bot that does that kind of thing. And then we just kept talking about it there as opposed to migrating it to one of the channels that made a little more sense.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about, my character's going to be this in the schedule.
That would
and it's
really
just the wrong
improve
place.
readability if not only were, I wonder what we were talking about in this conversation, and then you find out that it's actually split across like 3 different channels.
Right, exactly. Well, and I did say something at some point. I was like, "Hey, should we move this discussion to the?" I said D&D channel because we don't have a Pathfinder one.
And we won't.
Well, we did. Sorry. You mean we won't have a Pathfinder channel?
Correct. I'm not even sure I want to have a D&D and a DCC set of categories. That might be one that I collapse.
Yeah, just like fantasy games or something.
Right.
So then,
Because
what
we
would
do
you
that for
with,
science fiction. You know, we don't have a Mothership and a Traveler channel. We have a sci-fi channel.
Sure. Where does Delta Green go?
Delta Green stands alone.
Okay. Well, I just need to start us playing a bunch of Call of Cthulhu, and then it's like investigation games or something.
No, it'll be Cthulhu Mythos.
Cthulhu. Okay. There you go. I thought we were switching to what was it, Kids on Bikes?
Kids on Bikes, I'm still fascinated by and would like to run a game in. So this is well, I don't think it's based on any other system. It's just a pretty lean, like, investigation-oriented TTRPG system. And I think the basic mechanic of it is, it's you have like a set of 7 regular TTRPG dice, and each of those dice is assigned to one of your basic skills. So if you're the thing you're best at, you get a D20 in, for example. The thing you're worst at, you get a D4 in, and that's how the checks work.
That's pretty extreme.
It's pretty cool. I may have completely misunderstood that. I think I read the rules, 3 years ago, but I have it. I've been looking at running some kind of fun Scooby-Doo type mystery in, some kind of one-shot, but I've just never gotten around to it.
That sounds fun. But Duncan, you did say that this is probably going to be a long session, right? We should probably hop to it.
No, I actually have no idea how long it's going to be. This is one of those where it could be 3 hours, it could be 45 minutes. It really, I don't know.
Well, then we should probably hop to it.